and they eat them. Is it a coincidence that the COVID-19 disease has been much less devastating in rural America than, say, in New York City or Chicago or New Orleans? There's a lot of factors involved, but consider also there are some communities, there are some counties in Missouri that have had no deaths due to COVID-19. 0, and just a handful of cases. You think, well, there's no people there. Well, okay, there are, and there aren't. But most of these people still go into town, into the store to buy their stuff. They're very social people, okay? But they don't have the disease nearly like people who live in the cities because they eat squirrel, they eat possum, they eat fish, they eat wild animals. Could that be one of the reasons why their rate of infection and rate of death is so much lower? Now, COVID-19 is less than 1 year old, so nobody has antibodies or resistance, right? That's what the doctors say. Well, yes and no. It is a new virus. It is less than a year old. And I believe that when the experts say that, I don't think it's some type of a black helicopter conspiracy. I think that's true. But like the flu, when we get our flu vaccine for next winter's flu, they're going to say, you know what, this is going to be a partial immunity because we're really not sure exactly what flu is going to come into North America this year. And that's true. But they say if you get it, even if we're off, you're still going to have some antibodies, some immunity. So even if you get the flu, it probably won't affect you as bad. Same with COVID-19. It is less than a year old. But those that have been exposed to wild animals, the source of the coronavirus, the source of the COVID-19 disease, those that have been exposed to wild animals, perhaps they have partial immunities, some antibodies, so it affects them less. Now, take no doubt about it. The Chinese Communist government, they are deceitful liars. They just are. Okay? Nobody denies that. Even the Chinese people know this. But maybe their numbers are lower due to partial immunities, due to the wet market exposure to similar pathogens. So that may be the real reason why it hasn't affected China or many of the Asian countries or many of the African countries like it has the West. I mean, consider the fact that no Italians or New Yorkers are ever going to eat bats or snakes. They're not going to. But many Chinese do. In ancient times, people were separated by mountains and seas, okay? Steamships in 1918 and airplanes today, they close the gap. The dirty, germ-infested Europeans and Central Asians infected, over time, the clean, the healthy native peoples of the New World. That's just a fact, okay? The people in the New World were living a very clean, healthy lifestyle. The Europeans and the Central Asians were dirty, filthy, and full of diseases. And the antibodies to stop those diseases from killing them, by the way. Now, I can be anywhere in the world in 36 hours, more or less, because of modern travel. Anywhere in the world. Unhealthy, infected people throughout history have infected the clean and healthy people. That's not going to change. Unhealthy, infected people will continue to be the source of reinfection of the healthy, wealthy world because we're not going to eat bats or civits or snakes or use their oil to rub on our penises to make them grow long like they do, okay? That's just the way they are. They're a filthy, disgusting, dirty people with lots of antibodies and immunities to wild animals. So the table is now turned, my friends, okay? Nowadays, back in the day, the Europeans were the filthy, nasty, disease-ridden people that decimated the clean, healthy populations of the Native Americans and also all of the New World, basically. But the table is turned because now the healthy people are the wealthy people. The people in the first world, the Europeans, the Americans, the Canadians, actually nowadays South Americans. Okay, many of the people in many of the South American countries. Those are the healthy people. The filthy, dirty people are the people who eat animals and snakes and civits and bats. Okay, they are now the dirty people at the table with the diseases. And by the way, the immunities to these diseases. So the table is now turned. As long as we have these wet markets, as long as we have people who eat these animals and use them as medicine, this isn't going to stop. So either it has to stop, and they say, well, we'll get a vaccine for it. Okay, we'll get a vaccine for this one. What about the next one? It took us 10, 15 years to get a vaccine for the Ebola virus. We still don't have one for the AIDS virus, do we? Not a real one. How long is it going to take to get a vaccine for the COVID-19 virus? A year, 2 years, 5 years? And what about the next one? Because SARS and MERS, those were the same thing. They came from animals, animal to human. As long as we have these wet markets, as long as we have people eating and using wild animals as medicine, we're going to have another one of these. So, my friends, face masks, hand sanitizers, social distancing, temperature taking, quarantines may be the new normal, at least in the West, where the wealthy, healthy, clean people live. Now, consider quarantine, even the word quarantine. Quarantine, the QUA in quarantine has to do with 4, quad, okay, the number 4. And that was basically the number of days that a ship coming into port, when a ship came into port in the old days, they could not actually dock until 40 days after they arrived in port to make sure that everybody on that ship was healthy. They figured, you know what? If we monitor them for 40 days and nobody's sick, then they're fine. That's where the word quarantine came in. So it's nothing new, okay? Now, how do we battle this, okay? Because we can't close off the world. That's not going to happen. But if you stay healthy and improve your diet, exercise, and don't be stupid, you can minimize your risk. Minimize your risk, not eliminate your risk, not make yourself immune. Now, me personally, I may be done traveling to third world countries. I may be. I'm 60 years old, so I'm in that high risk factor. I mean, I'm not overweight. I'm not diabetic. I don't have heart diseases. I don't have any of that other stuff, but I'm 60 years old, so I'm in that category where the immune system just ain't what it used to be. That's just because, okay? This essay is not the gospel truth. This essay is my opinion, but this is my opinion based in lots of facts, friends. So consider them. Do your best to try to be smart with this whole social distancing thing. You don't need to be stupid, but you don't want to run out and start hugging and kissing and caressing and shaking hands with everybody, in my opinion. Take it slow. Talk to the people and associate with the people that you know have been smart as well. And slowly but surely we'll ease into this. Now, I don't mean to be the Grim Reaper here, okay? Because life is great. Life is fantastic, okay? We certainly don't want to stay sheltered in place forever and be afraid of our own shadow. We certainly don't want to do that. We don't want to be boring. Life is fantastic. Life is wonderful. But this, my friends, may be the new normal until we decide to have the whole world stop doing these goofy things with wild animals. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So if that's not going to happen, we have to go to plan B. Isn't it great? Well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope I didn't mean to bring you down. I want you to enjoy the 3-day holiday. Of course, Memorial Day is when we remember the war dead. So back in the radio days, I had somebody say one time, Happy Memorial Day. And you've heard this many times on the radio with people who aren't thinking. I'm not going to wish you a happy Memorial Day because we remember those that have died to make sure we have our freedom. So thank you to them. But still, you can still barbecue and drink a beer, right? Have a good time. Enjoy the podcast. Send me an email if you want to subscribe to the podcast, by the way. You know how to do that. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. Send me your email address. I will send you a link to the latest and greatest podcast as soon as it's published, as soon as it is uploaded to the server. And you can download it and listen to it at your leisure. You can also get the podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Facebook, Twitter, TuneIn, Radio Online, the podcast app, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, CastBox, Google Podcasts, and Spreaker.com. Lots of other sites as well. And until Spotify pays me $100 million like they did Joe Rogan, I will not be exclusive on Spotify. You can get my podcast anywhere you like for free. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's it. I'm done. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope you enjoy the 3-day weekend if you have one, and enjoy the rest of the week as well in this beautiful weather we're having in East Central Missouri or wherever you may be listening and whenever you are listening to the podcast. Okay? Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.